Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash. This is AshQuest, and on AshQuest we are unboxing Waterdeep, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, a Dungeons & Dragons adventure system cooperative board game designed by Kevin Wilson and published by WizKids for 1 to 5 players. All of the Dungeons & Dragons cooperative adventure system board games basically play out almost exactly the same, such that they are very much compatible with each other. And if you have played extensively any of the games in the series, of which there are 6 board games and 1 expansion that relies on you having any of the 6 board games, then the learning curve to pick up and play any of the others in the series is that of around 5 minutes while you try to understand the nuances, what makes the new game different. Other than that, the mechanics are pretty much the same. Plagued by dreams of madness, journey to Undermountain and join in the adventure of a lifetime. Now, I kind of use the publisher names interchangeably, but that's not correct. WizKids, despite Wiz being in the name, has nothing to do with Wizards of the Coast. They are a subsidiary of NECA, the publishers of HeroQuest. Being a Dungeons & Dragons licensed product, however, they do get licensed through Wizards of the Coast. Now, I have fond memories of Dungeon of the Mad Mage because it's one of the games that I did actually play on 2 occasions. Before we begin, I want to point out that this box has, I think, my favorite art out of all of the D&D Adventure System games, box art. But I also wanted to finish my thought from a second ago. WizKids is not Wizards of the Coast for kids. They just published the last 3 games and the expansion in this D&D Adventure System series, being Dungeon of the Mad Mage, Tomb of Annihilation, and Temple of Elemental Evil, and the expansion Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Now you're looking at components that have been reboxed because this is a gently loved game. But of course, we have the rulebook, which teaches you how to play pretty much all of the adventure systems. The inclusion of Kevin Wilson as a name on the cover of the box is kind of a pleasant treat, as that designer has a few games under his belt that you've likely played, namely Arkham Horror as well as Descent: Journeys in the Dark, 2nd edition. Which means that we're actually going to get a bit of inclusion of features that make sense with this one. It's another reason why it's one of my favorites. We do have a proper campaign, this time around, 13 adventures that you can actually play from the 1st through to the 13th as a single party. A proper campaign using the D&D adventure system built in, finally. Quite a bit more detail as to how to set up the adventure for your given scenario. Like, somebody really wanted you to be a bit more immersed in these than normal, taking quite a Warhammer Quest sort of approach, which this does draw a little bit from the approach of building out your scenario anyway. But this just seems like there's more attention put into that, which I greatly appreciate. Town actions. Between adventures, you can level up. And in previous games of D&D Adventure System, it wasn't totally clear. When you leveled up from level 1 to level 2, do you get to keep that? Because there's only the 2 levels, and there are several different adventures in each of the campaigns. At my table, we played it like you kept the 2nd level, so when you begin the next adventure, you don't reset. But I can imagine that there are people who would read those rules and interpret it as if you reset back to level 1. In this game, you keep your levels because there's a 3rd and 4th level, and this being a town action happening between quests, the start of a new quest doesn't reset it. It's just nice to have it explicitly here. We get special components in the Elder Rune cards, which have a Bane side and a Boon side, so they're double-sided. I mean, the card itself still has a vague backing, but then the front of the card here is going to have a top and a bottom, so you'll either draw it up or down, getting the Bane or Boon. And if there's somebody at your table who is absent for a given scenario, they still get 200 gold pieces if they don't participate in a successfully completed adventure. It's a really nice little quality of life set of improvements there. I appreciate those. This is one of my favorite settings in that we have 2 different tiles here. We've got dungeon and cavern, so this is already just a pretty flexible set of components right out of the box. It looks like we have our components are bagged up individually because this is our saved game. That's pretty cool. I'm glad we were able to save here. We have various tokens, counters, and chits that I won't really linger on because I'm not a big fan of these kinds of components in any board game. The more of these there are, the bigger my headache grows during gameplay. But these can be very useful in marking out which kinds of benefits or benefits, if you will, your characters have. We'll go over the character selection here shortly. There are, of course, 5 new heroes that you can use. Our healing surges, our gold coins, our statuses such as awakened, advantage, stunned, weakened, our monsters in their various colors, our card decks, and our trays are designed a little bit differently this time. Tray in that we don't have a compartment underneath the deck. Instead, we have a separate compartment for all of our level counters. Such a silly thing. In this game, when you get to 3rd level, you get the exact same set of bonuses that you would get no matter what character you are. 4th level, same thing. 3rd level, you get 0 to your AC, but you get 2 to your hit points. No extra speed, but 1 hit point to your surge value if you need to use a surge token to recover. You'll get a new class utility power and a new class expert power. Expert powers being another addition to this game and this series that give you a little bit more of a customizable character development experience. And yes, another thing that I greatly appreciate. At 4th level, you'll get a 2 increase to your AC, 2 hit points to your surge value, another class utility power, another class daily power, and +2 class expert powers. I'd have to go back to the rules to read what exactly that means. I'm actually thinking that you don't get 4 hit points on top of the 2 you had at 3rd level. I think that this overlays your base character stats. So instead of a +2 bonus, now you get a +4. And instead of one class utility, 1 class expert, now you're getting a utility and a daily and 2 expert. So not stacking, but replacing with these. Pretty sure that interpretation is correct. Perhaps not even interpretation, probably explicitly stated. We've got our trap tokens, our hit points, all of those counters that are standard. You're not here for those though, and I don't want to waste any time going over those. The tiles this time around seem a bit more glossy than normal. We've got our stack of dungeon tiles here, as well as 4 starter tiles. This is a boss. We don't have compartments under the tile storage either, unfortunately. Here's our second set of dungeon tiles. I mistakenly thought they would say cavern on the back. They do not. Whether it's a dungeon or a cavern, that's on the action side of the tile. This is going to be dungeon tile, but it's actually a cavern, clearly, as you can see. All right, so in previous games, you only have really a 4x4 configuration of squares here, and whatever combination of stuff you can fit on here to make the tile unique without really changing the art. Because honestly, while you can change up the art for the tiles, mechanically, if they work the same as a cross or a junction or a corridor, you're not really giving a lot of value with each new game that you produce. Well, it doesn't matter. You have everything you need here to play this game. And because all of these systems are very compatible, it's one system really, all these games in the system are compatible with one another, you are able to bring your heroes into this system. You're able to take, I don't know why I keep saying system, this game, your old heroes from, Castle Ravenloft, or maybe if you're starting at Waterdeep, you'll be able to progress through Tomb of Annihilation, and then Temple of Elemental Evil, and then Wrath of Ashardalon if you want. It's up to you. You can do absolutely whatever you want. There is no prescribed order in which to play the games. I would probably want to start with one of the first 3, just to get the basics before they start adding the quality of life improvements. But if you're experienced enough at running any of these games, and you're trying to introduce new players to it, I would definitely add the in-between scenario upgrades, and I would play all of the quests in a given game as a series of quests for a campaign. Anyways, we continue to pull tiles and lay them down with the arrow facing the adventurer who is uncovering the tile. You will draw an event card, depending on the color of the arrow that is facing you. Spawn your monster where it's supposed to go, if applicable. The art on these is pretty good. We're not going to talk about scale whatsoever. Entry well, mirror gate. I like the design of that. The Shadow Dusk Hold, really like the design of this. And the Arch Gate. We follow a nice 1-inch square standard. The mat here in the back has nothing to do with this game, by the way. It is just thematic for this video. Now we move on to the boss and monster components, but only after we go through the deck. We have our sequence of play cards, our trap cards. The tile your hero is on is actually a cloaker. Place the cloaker token on this tile. The cloaker doesn't move and attacks all heroes on its tile with its bite. That sucks. Flame jets, wall of eyes, teleport glyph, howling guardian, and life-draining field, as well as choking smoke and dizzying ray. These trap cards are terrible. Oh, in a good way. Here are our spell cards. They include magic missile, disintegrate, finger of death, oh boy, stone skin, bestow curse, meteor swarm, ice storm, lightning bolt, fear, slow, telekinesis, just kidding, telekinesis, fireball, inflict wounds, charm monster. I like the artwork they used here. ray of frost. Into a ray of frost she goes. Here are our elder runes, and we did say that these were double-sided, double-ended, if you will. That keeping them upright at all times isn't going to clue you in on what side of the back end has the boon or the bane. That differs with the card. Anarath, protection and sacrifice. You cannot regain hit points. That's the bane. Keep this card until you spend a healing surge or the end of the adventure. But the other side is a boon. You cannot gain new conditions against your will. Keep this card until you spend a healing surge or the end of it. It's nice. It locks in, and it's got the same sort of consequence to dispel it. Cannot gain new conditions against your will is very helpful, though. Enkazme, decision. Bane, you get stunned. Boon, after rolling the die, you may re-roll it. You discard this card after using its effect, or discard after resolving it. Oh, that's funny. I was completely wrong. The Bane is always on the top side, which means when you reveal this card, it must be in a sort of random way. I don't know. Savaros, goblin kind. Goblins, hobgoblins, and bugbears always consider you to be the closest hero to them. The boon, find the Nameless Ally card and place it with the rest of the monster cards you control. Nameless activates first in step 3 of your villain phase. Maybe they start out as Banes and become boons. I don't remember using any during the 2 games that I played. We got a lot of treasure cards this time around. Nice sized deck of treasure cards. The Eon Stone of Regeneration, Eyes of the Eagle, Ring of Evasion, Magic of Disruption, Recovery, Chest of Gold, Bag of Silver, Pouch of Copper, Unidentified Scroll, a Helpful Rune. We only get 4 adventure cards, 1 Nameless Ally, and 3 Intellect Devourers for whatever reason, specific to a specific adventure, I believe. Like the other games, we're going to have 3 of every kind of monster, and our monster deck, which has a ton of events in it: Mad Laughter, Ghostly Procession, Shrieker, Psychic Swarm, Halaster Attacks. Mad Laughter and Ghostly Procession being fairly harmless. Perhaps it depends on the scenario, however. It's monster time. I just discovered a lovely surprise. I kept all of my cardboard for some reason in here. I'm prone to do that. Anybody else? It's not as if you're ever going to fit that stuff back into the cardboard slags. I'm gonna warn you now, the miniatures in this one are not going to be nearly as impressive as almost any of the other Adventure System games. I introduce you to the Spectral Flying Sword. Yes, there are 3. Very spooky. Ooh, look out, heavily armored knight. It's coming to get ya. It's gonna stab you in the back. On the first game of Waterdeep, my GM gave to me 3 flying swords. We also don't get individual models for the different variations of flying swords. We have spectral flying swords. They give 4 experience when you destroy them, which is pretty cool. And later on in this deck, we've got 3 cards that specify flaming flying swords. So doubtless they're going to use the same model, which kind of puts a whole stop to like thematically painting each one. I'm not sure how you would handle that unless you go out and buy a bunch more flying swords. We've got regular flying swords as well. So there you go. 8 cards represented by 3 miniatures. 3 different flying sword variants. Don't like that. Not a fan, at least on the creativity side, but I also do respect the practicality of it, and I kind of like that we do have different cards that represent different monsters, although we're using the same models. In another episode, I talked about how nice it was to have proxies, and this kind of falls into the proxy way of thinking. And now, the Intellect Devourer. This guy's not devouring anything. This guy's devouring aphids off of your garden roses. You can't even see this guy. It's a brain on 4 legs. And I guess the fun part about this is that this brain is actually like kind of scale accurate. It's a pretty big brain, but I mean it is small enough to almost fit into the skull of the humanoids that are with this expansion, this game. Not an expansion, game. There are 6 of these, and that will cover the Intellect Devourer Adventure cards as well as the ones that are in the monster deck. Oh man. Unfortunately, we are not done with the underwhelming miniatures. I present to you the Grung. We have 3 sculpts of these beautiful little frog boys holding knives. They're not the greatest sculpts, and this kind of goes back into my whole WizKids and Nolzur's sculpts not being my favorite. I mean, they're pretty basic. I've seen independent sculptors using green stuff to make sculpts vastly superior to what we have going on here, just in terms of how much time it looks was spent on this sculpt. And I mean, I really don't want to bash the sculptor too much. And by the way, this is the Grung Elite Warrior, so this is a 4th Grung that is included with this. But I mean, at some point, come on. Yes, I'm complaining. Yeah, you're going to see the miniature on the board and it's kind of far away. And I mean, if it's a kid having fun, they're not really going to care. If it's an older person who's losing their eyesight, they're not really going to care. But in either case, I would care as either of those things that I mentioned. We have Grungs, we have Grung Assassins, and then we have the Grung Elite Warrior. So these 4 miniatures, 2 different sculpts are covered by these 7 cards. Okay, we're finally out of the woods with the not impressive sculpts, and I'm ready to show you the shadow. The undead shadow. This guy's kind of creepy. He's pretty cool. He is raised up. These guys inflict statuses if they damage you. They have lovely poses. The height is really cool. It's a fun sculpt. It's simple, but it's fun. This is a good, simple sculpt. Of course, your mileage may vary. Your opinion might be different. These might just fall into the, they could have done better. They certainly used a lot of material on them. I present to you the Thug. Just the Thug. These guys are pretty cool looking. This is a good sculpt. There's a lot of details on here. There's a lot of stuff that this guy would actually have that makes him very interesting to look at on the table. So if you're going to have a sculpt that's this detailed, then you can't justify having sculpts that are as crappy as these. Sorry. I'll stop that now. As usual, there are 3 of these sculpts, and we do have variants, again, this time around, the Thugs as well as the Infested Thugs. 6 cards, 3 figurines, another Thug sculpt, however, this time with a crossbow. For all intents and purposes, looks the same, but this is the Thug leader. And we have 1 card to represent him, so we'll just place them there. Next up, we have a miniature called the Veteran. What is up with his neck? This is a flaw. Look at this guy. He's got periscope neck. He's able to pop his head up like a He-Man Masters of the Universe villain and look around. Is that normal? They're not all like that, right? No, they're not all like that. They're similar. His head just wasn't pushed all the way down during the assembly process. God, that's funny. Anyway, okay, the veterans. This guy's a real veteran. We got 3 veteran cards. We've got 3 gnarled veteran cards. And then we have another sculpt, this time the Veteran Leader. This is a different sculpt. This guy's got short hair as opposed to long. He's got 2 swords as opposed to 1. His neck is kind of normal as opposed to elongated, like a Rokuro Kubi. A new sculpt that I actually really like. This is the Bure Hag, a fae. This lady ain't no lady. Or I mean, she might be. I shouldn't judge. She's actually probably very nice. She does have an attack of +7 and a damage of 2, so if she hits, that's not going to be nice, but she has a pretty cool sculpt. She has creepy, elongated arms with reaching fingers stretching into the air. She has this staff. The material for all of these is slightly bendy. They're not going to break when you drop them, but they may come out of their packaging in poses that you may not like, so you'll have to use the fabled hot water trick. I'm not going to do that. I don't think it's worth it, really. Just play the game in this case. Unless they're really falling over. And next up is probably the piece de resistance, the beautiful, lovely gray ooze. You can tell that there was a real effort of time and talent spent on this amazing creature, both in its design concept as well as its implementation. Also, I love that it's the gray ooze, and you can tell that it's clearly gray. Very, very gray. We're seeing levels of gray unbeknownst to man. I'm throwing a lot of shade for a game that I said I actually really liked, so I apologize for that. That's not really the tone I'm going for here. We have a set of Beholder zombies with this game. I think that this is pretty cool. The Beholder is always an imposing sculpt. It's always a really terrible monster to encounter in any D&D experience. These guys bite, and they can also use their eye stalks. And they can inflict wounds, charm monster, disintegrate, fear, finger of death, or they cast that after they bite? Oh, they're just terrible. They're just terrible. 2 particularly monstrous sculpts in this game, the Death Tyrant. And it actually casts 3 spells, just constantly using spells to attack the heroes. Hate it. And probably the biggest and bestest sculpt here, well, maybe not the best, it still lacks detail in a lot of places, is the Scaladar, which is a construct. This guy, I would actually like to lift his tail up and get it positioned this way. I would do that with the hot water trick for sure. It's going to take a lot of hot water. It's really going to run up my bill. He claws and he stings, and he can also rend. Okay, we got 5 bosses. Desmere Shadow Dusk, a level 5 villain. It kind of seems like in this game they wanted the sculpts to match the art, which I can definitely appreciate. We'll see if the hero figurines match that trend. This sculpt also represents Zalthar Shadow Dusk, so multi-purpose. And then the Great Grey Ooze, which, oh no. Oh god, so it's just the gray ooze again. Like it's just, I can't stand when they do that. But it does play into the proxy way of thinking. Maybe I need to refine what I mean when I say that. Theobrand is, oh no, Thobriand. Thobriand is a construct. An iron golem, an apprentice that has transferred his mind into this construct. Do I like it? No, but I don't dislike it. Maybe I need to spend some time with this one. Put it on the board, have it attack the heroes a bit. This villain has a long card for its size. This is Arcturia, an undead that looks like a fairy witch. You know, I'm not really too sure. It looks like there's like a fungus hat on a lady who enjoys adventuring in the woods and eating mushrooms. 22 hit points. She's going to take a long time to beat down. Muriel is a monstrosity. This is the man-scorpion evolution from Dragon Strike, essentially. The natural way for that to go if it lives long enough. You either die a TSR villain, or you live long enough to see yourself a Wizards of the Coast abomination. Absolutely wicked sculpt on this one. This one is actually impressive. It looks really cool. The details are nice. The design is solid. The concept is wicked. I like it a lot. For the final boss, we have Halaster, which is also a miniature here that's representing the monster card called the False Halaster. So of course you're going to use the sculpt for the false one. This is Halaster Blackcloak, and I like the positioning of the weapons and the waves that were designed to show that they are magically being moved up into the air. I like his double-headed snake staff. I like the folds in his robe and the ripples in his beard. He is majestic. He's threatening. He cuts an imposing figure. Good on the designers for this one. I also have to apologize. The 2 Shadow Dusks are actually represented by 2 different miniatures. I did not notice this. They could have very easily just used the same miniature to represent both of them. I know that there are differences in the designs here, but they could have just went ahead and just merged the design together on the cards too. They're not really that different enough to throw a big fit about if you use the same miniature. But okay, interesting, cool. So that was a decision. All right, we've got our 5 heroes, and I'm gonna have to break open the save states essentially to show you the cards and some of the abilities. Yeah, I love the box art for this. The key art here is just wonderful, but this implies that we have Githyanki and Drow and Mind Eaters, and they are not in this game at all. Like, this is just false advertising. I get that this is supposed to be Halaster here, but where are these beauties? Regrettably, no, they are not in our pack of heroes either. They're just absent from the game completely. Probably the biggest travesty committed by this game. All right, it's time to check out Atka, the Tiefling Fighter, represented by a miniature that says Tiefling Battlemaster on its base. This one matches. The sword's a bit curved, but that's not the miniature's fault. Tail, chainmail, shield, horns, feminine appearance. I like it. Atka is a win, and Atka has the following various powers: protection fighting style, hellish rebuke, renowned adventurer, sword and shield, lucky charm, haha, smash and slash, leadership, goading attack, hurled dagger, precision attack, and the following expert powers: extra attacks, bulwark, and commander's strike. Moving on to Cormac, the half-elf cleric. We see somebody who is a half-elf and yet pretending to be a full-on high elf. Look at that smug. Only Shadowheart is allowed to have such smug. Elf Cleric of the Grave would be our miniature here, and yeah, you know, great job on making the miniature the same as the art. For this one, the detail is really in the cheekbones, not just the clothing. And the fact that we have a lute on the backside, that's a guitar. That's just a straight up guitar. Why do we have that? I don't know, but it's on the art, so it doesn't matter. This cleric has Whirling Spear, Blessed Stakes, Righteous Throw, Path to the Grave, Vampiric Touch. So that's where those come in. Insect Plague, Potent Energies, False Life, Speak with Dead, Bane, and the following expert powers: Revivify, Keeper of Souls, and Blight. I made mention in another video about one of the games in this series that, because these cards are named for the classes rather than specific characters, that you could just as easily take fighter cards from one of the other games, because at least one of the other games has a fighter class, and basically have your players choose from that deck as well in order to continue building their character. Next up is Marson, Human Sorcerer. Marcon. Human Storm Sorcerer is what the miniature details, and yeah, again, artwork looks just like the sculpt. Not a fan of the sculpt, actually. Well, I don't know, it's kind of basic. It's different though, it's different. Different enough, this is a decent representation of a sorcerer at level 1. With Heart of the Storm, Control Winds, Lightning Bolt, Font of Magic, Thunderclap, Shocking Grasp, Empowered Spell, Chain Lightning, 2 of those, Thunderstep, and Distant Spell. And the expert powers of Whirlwind, Storm's Fury, and Wind Soul. Losing my saved progress, I'm just going to go ahead and put the gold tokens and everything back in the box. It's fine. Nayeli, the Human Paladin, is next. And here they are. I will say that everything about this is holy except for the hair. That is so unholy. The hair is downright evil. Look at that pompadour. This person was a bully in high school in Japan. Great weapon fighting style, whirlwind slash, rush and attack, aura of courage, look out, relentless avenger, shield of faith, champion challenge, lay on hands, divine health, and the expert powers of aura of protection, cleansing touch, and divine smite. Finally, we have what is my favorite piece of hero art, probably in any of these systems. This is Trosper, and she is a gnome rogue. You can see in the art here that she is carrying an assortment of tools, weapons, implements, and a hat, a cowboy hat. Her powers include Steady Eye, Truncheon, Probe Defenses, Mopping Up, Unerring Eye, Slippery Mind, Patience, Insightful Fighting, Baiting the Hook, and Nice Try. With expert powers of Elusive, Eye for Weakness, and Stroke of Luck. This was the character that I played when I played this game. She is tiny. WizKids trying to replicate gnomes and halflings even, and goblins, they just really have a hard time getting any sort of good distinction in their sculpts. It doesn't matter what the line is, it's just really tough for them to get a sculpt that's really good when it's this small. And it's not really like the gnome's fault, it's supposed to be a small character. As a joke, I decided to play this character with a sort of southern accent of some kind. I guess I was going for Texan. And I made her racist against pretty much every other D&D race. She was constantly throwing around phrases like, "you kind of people," at the half-elf cleric and the tiefling. When the objective of the adventure had been completed, 3 of my 4 party members went into the stairwell, and I decided to hang around and try to get more treasure by going for just one more encounter. So I went to the monster and I got swarmed, and she died down in the darkness below, ending our game with a success for 3 of the heroes, to which my brother-in-law legendarily replied, "Finally." It was great. It was a great game. And then we never played again. I do really like the art for the rogue here, though. I should say the art for the gnome. Maybe I'm just built different, but I find that to be pretty endearing. It's a pretty endearing design. Hate the sculpt. Love the art. That is Waterdeep, Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Really wish I didn't feel so cheated out of the characters in the back here displayed, but it is what it is. I would probably do anything to get one more adventure system game. I have a few more to look at here on the channel, but one more produced perhaps by Larian or, in cooperation with Larian based on the Baldur's Gate 3 characters. I would absolutely love to have a Shadowheart miniature instead of cards and a Karlach miniature instead of cards. All that stuff would be so amazing. I'd be so grateful. And then the tiles would represent Baldur's Gate. You can't tell me that that wouldn't be amazing. Because this is set in Waterdeep, I have one more thing to mention, and that's the towns between the adventures. You're in a specific location after each adventure, and what town actions you can do depends on that location. We've got 3 different locations here, including the Yawning Portal, Skullport, and the Depths. I just thought that was a cool detail thrown in. We've got different settings, so different functions depending on where you're at between adventures. I like that a lot. Let me know what you thought about this unboxing and overview of WizKids Dungeon of the Mad Mage. Shout out if you know Kevin Wilson here. Not if you know him, but like if you know the name. Or if you know him, or if you are him. That would be cool. Comment down below. I appreciate your work on this. And I appreciate all of you, dear viewers. Check out the Patreon if you'd like some interesting channel perks / Discord perks, and I will see you in the next exciting adventure. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and bye for now.